Hi, welcome to Paleo Greenbird. I'm Greenbird, and today's video is going to be a flint knapping video, and we're going to flint knap a piece of dacite, or dacite, however you want to pronounce it. It's an excellent beginner stone. It sort of has the forgiveness of obsidian, yet doesn't make the big giant mess. It isn't quite as prone to cut you as obsidian is. But before we do that, I'd like to say thank you to all my subscribers who hung through me during the winter. I know based upon, well, you can see on the view count, but also based on my analytics, that most people who come to my channel come here for the flint knapping videos, not the other videos that I do. So it's been unseasonably cold this year where I'm at, so if you hang with me here as spring approaches, I assure you there will be many, many more flint knapping videos, because I love to flint knap, I love to film it, not just so that other people can see it, but also so that I can watch it and see some of the mistakes that I'm making, and I can learn and grow as a flint knapper. So look forward to many more flint knapping videos to come if that's why you come to my channel. So anyway, let's get to it. So I have a piece of dacite here, which is about palm size. This is my preferred size of spall, to be honest with you. I know you'll see a lot of people, or some people anyway, out there working these, these big giant spalls, and they make beautiful pieces of work out of them, and they really do, and big long knives or spear points or whatever it is. I find, maybe it's my skill level, I find that these palm-sized spalls work really well for me, and I'm not really interested in making giant spear points, to tell you the truth. I try and keep my flint knapping to something that might be functional, maybe even reminiscent of what the old boys would do in their time. And I have found that when I start with giant spalls, I lose a lot of material. So I think right now I do my best work when I have something that's about palm size, or maybe a little bit bigger than palm size. Maybe if I spread my palm out. So let's get right to it. So for my grinding stone, I'm going to use a piece of sandstone that I have. It's just a little piece of sandstone, nothing special. I'm going to start off using a 1-inch billet. So this stone is a little bit thinner on one end than it is on the other, so I'm going to try and work the thick end first, just to kind of flatten it out a little bit. Always want to grind your edges. I always start by just grinding the whole stone. I find that not only does it help get rid of material that you want to get rid of anyway, because it's just going to turn to dust or crushed edges, which is even worse, but also it really helps you not cut yourself. And as you can see, I'm not wearing a glove today. I do have a glove in my bucket, but not this bucket, but my other bucket that has my tools in it. But I don't really feel like wearing it for whatever reason. So I'm just going to sand these, or grind these edges off good. Now you can see here, it's not your typical platform where it has a smile, but I'm sure you can see, if the camera's picking that up, there's definitely an angle there. You can see, and a lot of times that's what you're doing. Don't get too caught up in what's a good platform, what's a bad platform. Think about the strikes that you've taken in the past, what effects they've had, and how you think this, the next strike you're going to take will affect the stone. Because sometimes you can get caught up in analysis paralysis and really not know what to do. So I'm going to take a flake off right here. Sort of have a platform, but it's not really that. In fact, I'm going to move over here to where I have a better platform. Always remember your support. You don't want to press it on your leg, but you want to make sure you give it some support. Sort of like, spotting somebody when they're doing gymnastics or they're weightlifting. You're spotting them. You're kind of slightly supporting what they're doing, but you're not interfering with what they're trying to accomplish. Same thing with flint knapping. Got a little flake and some dust, but we set ourselves up with a couple of good platforms, and that's really what we needed to do. You can see, and I hope I'm zoomed in enough. I usually zoom in a little bit more. Maybe if I take a break, I'll zoom the camera in a little bit more. So I'm going to grind those two platforms. I'm in a different chair today too, so I have all kinds of excuses. I'm going to try and drive this flake that's going right down this ridge right here. It's kind of a small platform, but I want to thin that area out. See how it's like a square edge? I can't zigzag that yet because it's too thick, but I want to start to reduce it. That's what I wanted to do right there. This flake. I'm going to save that flake too. That's a good practice flake for pressure flaking, or you could probably get a point out of that. Just in case you didn't see it. You can see we got a nice feathered. Look at this stone. I don't know if you can see it, but where I'm from, there's a little bit of silver sheen in there. I've never seen. I don't know if it's just the sunlight, but I don't know as though I've ever seen a piece of dacite with silver sheen in it. You can get silver sheen obsidian. I've had that, but it looks way different than this. Although obsidian is, dacite is basically obsidian. It was just cooled at a different rate, and there may be some other scientific things that make it different than obsidian, but that's all I know. So I just made a little bit of a platform there for myself, just a quick downward strike. A little more aggressive. I should probably bill it down soon, but so you can see my platform right there. Now I'm going to grind it. Because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to thin out that big ridge right there. Hopefully you can see that. I can never tell what the camera's picking up and what it's not because I have so much glare. But there's a big ridge right here where it hits that flat edge. Anyway, you can kind of see it. That's what I want to take off. I want to take off that big hump. I'm trying to flatten this out so I can biface it. And I know a lot of my flint knapping videos, I don't always finish my point. A lot of times it's just a bunch of percussion because I love percussion. I don't always film the rest of it, but I'm going to do my best to try and film the rest of it too. I'm going to grind. Usually if I hit it twice and nothing happens, or 3 times and nothing happens, I'll regrind. And this is a thick platform, so it's going to take some muscle. And always be conscious of how your stone is positioned, what direction you want that flake to travel. I have a specific direction that I want this flake to travel, so I need to make sure that that's in line with where I'm hitting the stone, and that my platform correlates to that too, which my platform kind of doesn't. But I'm going to try and compensate with my strike. I wouldn't recommend that. I would always recommend just a nice, beautiful, perfect platform, but I'm a little impatient. Okay, and that's the flake. This is the flake that I got. So it's a nice flake. Might be a little bit too thin for an arrowhead, but I might make a scraper or something. And I'm starting to flatten this rock out. Okay, and I left myself a platform right there to take care of the rest. Right here. And that's hopefully going to take that big giant ridge right there off. Hopefully you can see that big ridge. I wish I could see the camera better, but I can't see anything. But there's a big ridge right there. Take it from this end. The reason I chose this end is because it's a thicker platform. I've got more support for the rest of the flake to travel, and it's already pretty thin on this side, so it should feather out nicely. As you start to nap, you will get a feel for where flakes are going to terminate, how they're going to feather. there's no real way of explaining that. You just have to do it. You do it a lot. Make a lot of mistakes, make a lot of gravel. Ooh, I felt that one. I think I cut myself. Nope, did not. But look what happened right there. See that, this big ridge that I wanted to take out? I took a lot of it out. And this thing here is razor sharp. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if I start bleeding in a minute. But anyway, this thing is razor sharp. So you could use this as like a scraper. You could use it to debark something. I feel just absolutely awful putting all these flakes into my bucket because I feel like they're all tools. But you can see I still have that ridge left, but not a lot of it. I took out a good portion of it. And boy, I wish you could see. I hope you can see how much this stuff shines. This is going to be, whatever I make out of this, it's going to be beautiful. It just shimmers. So I set myself up on the platform right here, but there's no ridge to follow, so I don't want to even want to take that. I'm probably going to just grind it off or smack it off, and then I'm going to try and make a platform right here where this high ridge remains. Hopefully you can see that. Yeah, I'm not even going to bother. I'm just going to get rid of it. Leave a little bit of the platform just in case when I take this other one I can come back and use it as a thinning flake. But notice every time I clean up the edges, I'm always cleaning off my pad. That's important because if you, for a number of reasons. One, if you have stuff on there, it's gonna cut you. You're gonna get cut by just touching it. And two, it prevents the stone from, or the rock that you're knapping from, you know, being not supported, but just having contact with that debitage that will affect the support that you have on the piece and possibly give you problems. So here's a good example where I need to make a platform because I don't have one. I need to make one. So that's what we're going to do. I'm probably going to have to isolate this a little bit. If you don't know what isolated platforms are, definitely look it up. But it's basically just what it sounds like. It's like when you make a platform and you isolate it from the rest of the rock, and that's what you do when you want to drive a flake in a very, very specific direction. Alright, so I have a platform. It's not super great, but it's good enough. It's going to be right here. As you can see where the ridge runs, I'm going to have to direct my flake in a specific direction, otherwise I'll go across and I'll probably just get a hinge and make this even worse. So I need to push my flake this direction. I love working with dacite because it's really friendly as far as it's got a high silicate rate, so it definitely, or silica rate, silica content, I don't know, however you say it. But yet it doesn't, it doesn't break like obsidian does. It's a real good beginner stone. In my opinion, it's the best. Okay. So there's my flake. Back down here. So here's my flake. It did thin, but it didn't really take off. I'm trying to get that high ridge right there, and I keep missing. I don't know if I'm hitting wrong or if I'm just not hitting the right direction. It is kind of a tricky platform, but what it left me with is going to be a lot easier than what I had to work with before. See how that now the platform is right on that ridge, which is really typically what you want. You got a nice razor sharp flake. I feel bad. I have nothing to do with it though, so I'm gonna throw it in my bucket. I mean, I suppose maybe you can make a bird point or a frog point or something out of this, but in the bucket it goes. So this is probably going to be my last attempt to get this ridge out because I'm starting to thin out this side, especially with that last flake. You can see it dove pretty deep. So I need to make sure that this thins out that area that I want, because I need to start moving on to the other parts of the rock. And I need to dry this deep too, because it goes almost all the way. I don't know if you can see this, but it goes all the way until it hits the hinge, which almost always will stop your flake. So I'm guessing this is going to stop where that hinge is. It's going to make the hinge even bigger, and then I'm going to have to come back the other direction and clean it up. That's my prediction. I grind off all the loose stuff, all the sharp edges that are just waiting to crush and make a big mess out of my stone. Yeah, I feel a lot better about this platform that we have here. My only question is if I should billet down to a smaller billet. I almost feel like I should. Let's see how it feels. Yeah, I'm gonna stay with this 1 inch. I probably should go to the 3/4 inch. I hope I don't break this. But if I do, that's okay. It happens. Alright, that's what I wanted. Alright. So, this is the flake that I got. There's the stone. There's the flake. And look, we're starting to flatten this rock out. It's coming out nicely. I'm happy. I haven't napped in a long time because it's been really cold, but I'm happy with this. I guess that's probably why I tried. It's probably why I started with Dacite, because I wanted to make sure that I gave myself, sort of some training wheels. So now, what we're left with, though, is a flat edge over here that we have to deal with. So we're relatively flat. This end here, this part here, on both sides, is a lot thicker than the rest of the stone. So we want to try and thin that out without affecting the rest of the stone. So what I'm going to need to do, I can do a couple things. I can either try and make a platform on this end, but look how flat this end is. I don't. The thick part's right over here, so we're in a little bit of a conundrum. I think what I'll do. What I'll do to start is I want to make a platform right here. Okay, so this is what the rock looks like. I'll give you a full view of the rock. I think my best bet is going to be to try and make a platform right here and blow out this bottom part right here. Let's see if I'm right. Now the platform is already facing the wrong direction, so I need to fix that. I might lose a little bit of material on this, but that's why you start with a big rock, right? Let's see here. You know what? I've sort of changed my mind. I'm going to zigzag this a little bit. Now I'm going to billet down. Now's the time. So I'm going to switch to, I think this is a 3/4 inch. And then I'm going to make a platform. What I did was I just zigzagged a little bit on that edge, just to, when you zigzag, you make some platforms. And that will allow me to shoot off some of this thicker stuff. And right here, this is what I'm going to target right now, right here. It's a very steep platform. I mean, it's almost flat. I mean, it pretty much is flat, but I feel like I can shoot a flake across there if I hit it right. The real danger here is I could hinge, But because I only need a short flake, I don't really need a super long flake. My chances of hinging are not that great. As I jinx myself. Cleaning up the rest of the stone too, all the sharp edges. Never want to hit a sharp edge, it's just going to turn to dust, ruin your platform, and it'll give you what's called chatter on your stone. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants chatter at all. It's funny when you grind the stone too. A lot of times you'll find like platforms that you might have missed. Like I found one over here. I'll take later. I'm not gonna take it now, but you know, you kind of file those away. Never a bad idea to just evaluate. Make sure you're taking the right platform, especially if you have more than one. But you always want to try and thin as evenly as you can, because if you don't, you stand a much greater risk of breaking your stone through shock, end shock, or you're just holding it too tight. So this might be a little bit too big for the 3/4 inch billet, but I'm gonna let's find out. Yeah, I think that's a little too heavy. I'm gonna go back to the 1 inch. I mean, too light rather. Sorry. Yeah, I'm glad I did. So what I was trying to do there was thin out this big thick spot, and there's the flake that we got. You can see it cleaned up that ridge quite a bit, and we're starting to get a biface. I'm happy about this. Oh, look at this, a bonus flake. Gave me a nice big hinge right there, but I don't care, I can clean that up later. So now's the fun part, because now you don't have to worry about taking this giant massive rock and getting it flat. Now you've already got it flat. Now's the fun part. You get to decide, what platform am I going to take to get this as thin as possible. And I still have this flat edge here, which is going to, it's thicker than the rest. It's not so much thicker, but it's definitely flatter. I need to be conscious of that. So I'm going to use that flat edge to my advantage. I think. Yeah. So I'm going to run a flake this way, but before I do that, before I run one this way, I'm going to use this platform here, even though it's a kind of a flat platform, to drive one down this way. Okay. Not super deep. I'm not looking to take off a ton of material. Just looking to thin that edge a little bit, get my center line. Now is when you really want to start thinking about your center line. Don't wait until your stone is completely flat, because if you have a messed up center line when your stone is completely flat, forget it. It's hard to recover from that, and you can, but it's a huge pain. Once you start to get a biface, basically it's biface means two faces, one face here, one face here. You've got your. This is what you would start with, ideally. If you made a bunch of these, you would stash them away. That's what the old boys would do. They'd nap these down to this. They'd throw them in a pile, and when they wanted to make a point, they'd bring one out. Or if they were looking to trade, they would nap it down to this point, very rough biface. That way they could pack them away, they could haul them off, much easier than hauling off big giant rocks, and trade them that way. So anyway, that's what you want to do too. So once you get your biface, now you want to start thinking about your center line. I talk like I know what I'm doing, but I'm just a beginner. And I'm building down to my 3/4 inch. If you ever second guess your platform, take a minute to look at it, because there's a reason for that. So I would love to thin another flake that way, but I can tell I have a hinge right there, which is going to stop my flake dead in its tracks. I've got no platform on the other side. It just wants to dive this way. So I'm going to take that big one, that I said I was going to take before. Yeah, it's kind of a dusty flake, but it did remove material. Might have built it down a little too soon, but that's how you figure these things out. So I'm looking to take thin flakes, one right here, okay, here. That's also going to help my flake pattern, because this is obviously flat. But it's also allowing me to sort of, thin down that ridge to enough where maybe I can take a platform on either end and clean that up more. That sounded promising. Razor sharp microblade. Yeah. Okay. So it's definitely running flakes across. We're thinning. Ooh, I just saw something really cool. Right here. This platform right here. There's a ridge that follows it right down there. I can't resist that. We'll grind it really well. Still feel like I might be a little under-billeted, if that's a word. It is now. I just made it a word. But I'm going to do it anyway. Yeah. I should have used a bigger billet. That's alright. No harm. Took a flake. I'm not going to show it, but took a flake. Just not a really great flake. I'm going to try it again, though. No glutton for punishment. Oh, that was a mistake. Look at that. I just got a big hinge, a bunch of chatter. That's not good. Nothing you can do there except for clean up that edge. I'm not going to get rid of that. I mean, you can, if your biface is thin enough, you can try and get it from the other side. You try and blow it off from the other side. But, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start zigzagging this to get rid of that flat edge. I feel like it's the best thing to do. I should have done that before. And again, zigzagging is just what it sounds like. You're just hitting it once, flipping it over, hitting it again. It creates that zigzag pattern, which, obviously gives you platforms. Anytime you can make a platform is a good thing. Anytime. Might fast forward through this while I zigzag this. We'll see. Nice. So see, sometimes when you're zigzagging, you stumble across a good time. Like right here. I still need to get that edge off. You see me over here? Yeah. I still need to get that ridge off, rather, and I haven't been able to do it, but I just made myself a nice little platform right here by zigzagging. I'm going to grind that really, really good. Grind the rest of the stone too while I'm at it. Why not? Get off all the weak stuff. The weak parts of the stone are just like a weak link in the chain. It does nothing but cause you problems. I'll get rid of it now before you accidentally or are tempted to try and strike it. I'd rather take a palm-sized piece of stone and get one really nice point out of it than get a bunch of crappy ones. Yeah, look at that, I discovered another platform. Not a good one, though. Alright. So before we take that other one, I'm going to try and take this. I'm always tempted by the ones that I think are challenging. If you look right at there, you can see it's really flat. It's going to take some angle there to really get that off, but I feel like it'll blast off that fat spot. So I'm going to grind it really good and I'm going to try it. I've already zigzagged that spot, so you know it has to go. Otherwise, it's gonna just stay there. If I can't somehow blow it off, I don't know if maybe I should use a bigger billet. All right. There we go. Had to really give it some, but I think it did its job. Look at that. You see that? Oh man, I got a nasty hinge. Nasty hinge. Oof. Yikes. See that? Ugh, that's ugly. But there's still time to take care of it. Oof. Man, is that ugly. That's the kind of hinge that can bring your project to a screeching halt. That's disappointing. Now, but there's a good learning thing here because you know, I'm tempted to try and clean that hinge up right away, but look how thick the rock is over here. If I try and clean that hinge up, it's going to terminate right there, and it's just going to move my hinge. My hinge will be there instead of here. So I really need to continue. I need to come back to this. I can't concentrate on this right now. I need to come back to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this platform over here, still trying to thin the rock. Should probably grind it a little bit more. That will thin that portion, so then I can come back and take the platform over here. Yeah, that was definitely a critical error. I guess I shouldn't have done that. But we're still going to get a point out of this. Sometimes when you make mistakes, it's even better because you learn so much. Just a gentle flake. Another one. Yep, that's good. Another one. I'm not showing these flakes because they're nothing spectacular, but they're taking good flakes. You can hear it. If you've ever napped before, you know what a good flake sounds like. Cleaning up the edges. This video's starting to get long. So I'd like to at least get rid of that hinge. Ooh, man, that thing is ugly. So, okay. So I just made myself a platform right where that hinge is. look how ugly that hinge is. That's just terrible. But I made myself a nice platform right here that should allow me to, right there, that should allow me to blow off most of that hinge. Maybe I'll get lucky and it'll feather, or I'll get unlucky and the rock will break and I'll never post this video. Or maybe I'll post it anyway. I just don't want to waste you guys' time. I'm not afraid to show my failures, but I don't want you to watch a video and then have it be terrible. And I'm wondering if maybe I should build it up on this. Yeah, I'm going to do that just because there's so much material to take off. Now keep in mind, by doing that, I do increase my risk of breaking this stone quite a bit. So sometimes you're better off just chipping away at it but it's just so deep. I feel like I need a nice, clean, feathered flake. So I'm not pressing it on my leg, I'm just supporting it. I'm trying to make sure I remember what angle I need to hit this flake at to get what I'm looking for. Alright, that wasn't terrible. It didn't do the job completely, but it wasn't terrible. I'm flattening this out. I might have billed it down a little too soon. That might have been a first napping of the season rookie mistake. That's okay though, I'm having a ton of fun. Alright, so now I'm going to try and get rid of that fat end over here. You see, I mean, I still have a ton of nasty hinges over here. Not worried about that though. As I thin this out, I'll take those off. I want to make sure, the most important thing is I want to make sure I keep this rock the same thickness, or as much as I can throughout the whole rock. So again, this is going to be just a small flake, nothing big. Should have grinded that. Good one. See, you can see I can come across from the different sides and clean that hinge up. What I don't want to do is I don't want to concentrate on the hinge so much that I let the rest of the stone get real thin. Because what will happen is you'll just break your rock in half and you'll have nothing but wasted time. Alright, I'm going to bill it back down because I'm looking for small flakes. You see me, I'm rotating my stone. I'm looking for the best place to hit. I'm going to try and work on that hinge a little bit right here. Have a platform right there. It'll allow me to draw a flake across that ridge. Now it's going to terminate where that other hinge is. I know that because if you drive a flake, whether it be off a hinge or anywhere, into another hinge, you know, just be assured that it's going to terminate right there. It always will. But there's that little hinge right there. If you can see it, there's nothing I can really do. I have to drive the flake that direction. The only thing I can hope is that, you know, maybe it feathers a little bit. But I'm going to have to address this other hinge, either coming this way or that way, maybe even this way, but most likely this way or that way. And again, I hope the camera's picking this stuff up. If not, I just won't bother wasting your time by posting it. Okay, wish me luck. There's a good chance that this could break the stone. In fact, I think I'm going to hold off on that. I'm going to wait and see if I can clean up the hinge coming this direction first. And I'm going to do that by thinning the top part where the hinge isn't at, which in this case is the bottom, creating platforms to shoot across this way. That's what I'm going to do. Always keeping in mind where the center line is, where the thick parts are on the stone. Don't worry about losing material. if it's material that's not going to do you any good anyway. You're better off without it. So I'm just doing some cleanup here. I always find that when I'm not sure what to do, I just clean up the edges. Something always pops up. It just always pops out at me. It says, do this. Take this flake. That's what happened right here. So I've got a nice little platform right there. Just gotta take off this chunk. Clean up the whole rock while I'm at it so I don't cut my hand from supporting it. Nice. Took off a nice feathered flake right there. Left me with another platform. That's the best part. And it's starting to address that thick edge that I was talking about earlier. It's starting to get there. I've learned that, you know, it's not a good idea to get fixated on one problem. You know, it's like anything else in life, I guess. You know, if you get too stuck on one problem, you lose your ability to see the big picture. Same thing with flint knapping. If there's a problem that you can't seem to resolve, move on to a different problem. We all know there's no shortage of problems, right? There we go. Nice little feather. Oh, I lost it, but that's a nice little feathered flake. Starting to get our flake pattern on this side. This side's still ugly as sin. We need to worry about that, but as we thin it, we have the ability to thin that side where the hinge is on and maybe make something good out of it. Let's make it a little more zigzag in here. Thanks. I'm getting rid of that flat edge. Losing some stone, but don't worry about that. Oh. So what I just did is I did not support the piece properly. And look what happened. Pop. Now we have two. That's a real bummer. This is some really good material. We were getting close. But if you don't snap them, you're not napping. That's what they say. Sounds corny, but it's true. Everybody breaks them. So I guess we have two more pieces to work with. So sorry the video had to end this way. I was hoping we'd have a nice little biface. Okay, so for beginner nappers, I wanted to explain a little bit about what happened and maybe make something positive about, you know, the unfortunate event that, you know, you go to all this work to make a preform and then it snaps. And it will happen. It doesn't matter how good you are. Not saying that I'm good. I am, you know, I consider myself a beginner as well. But I do understand how this happened, and it was a typical rookie mistake that I don't want you guys to make. So I'll tell you exactly what happened. So I was taking a platform. I don't remember exactly which one it was. Probably, you know, something over on this side. And I had it supported on my leg, taking that hit, because when your stone is thick, that's what you're doing. You're supporting it over your leg, you're kind of supporting it on the top, and you're taking your strikes. Once your preform, or your biface, gets to a thin point, to the point where you're starting to shape, you're starting to think about your center line, it is so super important that when you nap those points, you need bottom support. So yes, it's going to be on your leg, but you're holding it, you're cradling it with your hand. So it switches from kind of like here to more like over here. Or I mean, it depends on how you nap. I mean, it could be anywhere really, but for me, because that's what's comfortable for me, I switch it over a little bit on the side of my leg opposed to on the top. And that's what I didn't do. Okay, so I continued to nap off my leg like this, where most of my support is the meaty part of my leg, which is very, you know, it's soft. So what happened was I got end shock. Even though it broke in the middle, it's end shock is what happened. So I hit it, it vibrated, and snapped right in the middle. What I should have done is I should have cradled it much, much more, with my hand under it. If I can get it to go back together, and then smacked it. And then at that point, the pads of my fingers sort of take the place of where it was in contact with my leg. But as weird as it sounds, even just having your whole hand touching the stone, if you touch the top and you're touching the bottom, your chances of end shock are very slim. You'd be surprised how thin you can get a point using strictly percussion. And maybe I'll do a video on that too. But so I just thought I'd share that with you folks, so you understood what happened, why this broke. I'm disappointed. It's a beautiful stone, but as I look at it, this here is going to be an arrowhead. I know I can do some more percussion work over here and thin this out. It's already kind of pointy. This over here has a bunch of hinges on it. It'll be something for me to do some practice work with, or I don't know what I'll do with it, but it's got that beautiful silver sheen in there, so I don't want to waste it. But anyway, I'm probably going to insert this video before the ending of the other video, and if you have any questions about, you know, support or anything like that, feel free to put them in the comments, and thanks for watching. Until next time, thank you so much for joining me, and I appreciate, like I said, I appreciate you folks hanging with me during the winter when it was hard for me to get out and nap. You know, this was my first time, actually my second time napping, now that I think of it, since the weather broke. So there will be a lot more napping videos to come, and if there's anything in particular that you have questions about, I'd love to hear about it in the comments, and I'll do my best to address them. So until next time, this is Paleo Greenbird, and I'm sadly signing out.